Hi, my name is Ama and I am from Group 1A.
Hi, I'm Anna.
Hi, Abha.
Hello, I'm Ahmed.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to talk about homeless people in Australia and Victoria and the problem these poor people face. As you can see, there are about 105,237 homeless people in Australia, of which 56% are male and 44% are female. In the second slide, as you can see, the photo shows the average age of the homeless varies as the following. Young have most numbers, which is from 12 to 24 years, adult from 25 to 54 years old, senior from 55 to 75 years old. In Victoria, there are approximately 68,500 men, women and children access Homeless Victoria service. The following pie chart shows that about half the homeless are lucky enough to find a place to sleep with a friend and family. 2 in 7 people will find a bed in a boarding house. 1 in 7 will find a bed in a service system. 1 in 7 will sleep rough on the street. Youth or young homeless people, her age between 12 to 25 years of age. Approximately 6,130 Victorians between 12 and 25 have nowhere to call home, and almost 60% of homeless service users are under the age of 25. This is summary statistic for all years, and the annual average temperature are as the following. January, the lowest is 25.9 and the highest 27.3, and Feb 25.1 to 27.1, March 22.7 to 26.9, April 19.2 to 22.4, and in May 17.1 to 19, and in June the lowest is 14.2 to 15.4, July 13.3 to 15.7, and in August 13 to 16.3, and in September 16.7, the lowest, and the highest is 19.5. October 19.1 to 24.3, November 20.8 to 22.7, and December 23.7, the lowest, and the highest 27.5, and the annual which is show on the following 20.3 to 20.9.
In this section, which is the needs definition. In this, I want to cover the few points. The first one is the purpose of the design, and the second one is the requirements and the importance of the shelter, and the third one is the material which are used to make a shelter. In the first point, which is the purpose of the design, we cover or tell that why we create a shelter or a design. The first main reason is to solve the issue of the rough sleepers in the Melbourne city, to provide them a safe place to live or sleep, and the second one is to ensure their privacies, and also to provide them shelter which covers them from or provide a protection from the weather. In the second point, which is the requirements and the importances of our shelter, it covers the following points. The first one is the shelter must be strong enough that it can survive in the weather condition of the Melbourne city. And the second one is the portability, which means that a person which use the shelter kit uh, can carry easily the shelter kit from one place to another place. And the third one is the shelter must be stronger or lighter, which means that the material which are used to make the shelter is reliable and lighter. And the fourth one is about the cost. The cost must be affordable. Like the ideal target of our shelter is under the 100 Australian dollars. And the next one is the shelter must accommodate one person or to provide enough space to a person to sleep or stay easily. And the third point is material with which our shelter is made. The first one is zip, which is used to open or close the door. And the second one, the fiber sheet and the cardboard, which is main material of the shelter, which are used to make the roof and the walls of the shelter. And then the next one is flexible solid material or a wire, which acts as a skeleton or a frame for the shelter. And then the transparent plastic sheet is used at the upper side of the shelter for sunlight to come in. And then the air cushion is used in the emergency cases, like for the floating on the water. Now, in the possible solution, we are going to talk about or represent the individual shelters of our group members and talk about the specific qualities. Like this is Usama's shelter. The qualities of this shelter is it is less in cost, stronger, lighter, and portable. And the specific uniqueness of this shelter is that it has a concept of umbrella, which has the capacity to control the air or sunlight.
This is Hot's shelter. His shelter has four feathers. There is an umbrella like a sunvisor, can rain and sunscreen. There is a one-way vision of the window can only be seen from the outside. Air-swept zipper saved cost. The most important things for this design is its stand structures. Friction rod-like stand can greatly reduce the volume when packing.
Ahmed have considered several conditions in his design. Special attention is made for the fabric of the tent, as it is the main component of the shelter apart from the structure. The fabric must have good therms properties not to allow the heat inside the tent escape easily to outside in the winter condition. Also, the structure of the tent is basically an umbrella which is spanned to cover floor area 2 square meters and the height is 2.5 meters, and the shelter have one window, and the weight of the shelter it's 5 kilo. It's easy to carry.
Hi, I'm Alan. Today I'm introduce my possible solution shelter for the Melbourne homeless people. As you can see, these two are my draft of the shelter. There are 8 benefits on my shelter. First, I make this shelter on a scooter. This could make homeless people move their personal belongings and the shelter much more easier than pack them as a bag. And then this also could reduce the percentage of them use the jewelry which belongs to clothes and wool. I also made the cover for 3 layers. This makes the cover stronger than only one layer, and I will introduce it more specifically in the part 4. Because sometimes there are some extreme weather in Melbourne, so I make the air cushion under the shelter around the skirt. This will make the shelter float when there is a flood. The structure of tents is made by carbon, so it's light but strong, and that make it good against the wind. There are also some little fixtures and space parts, which is like space lock, space hook, that could make them fix the shelter a little by themselves, because they only need to insert or pull out the lock to peg and build the shelter, so it's very easy for them to carry the shelter to everywhere. The top of the shelter is not flat, it's sloped, so when there is a rain or snow, it will slide from the top. The style of the shelter is like a railroad car, so it won't destroy the total style of the Melbourne CBD. And the supporting facilities could also be made like a train engine or some other things. In this section, the proposed solutions, I will introduce several technologies which we use in our group shelter. As you can see, this is the draft of our group shelter, and this is the structure of our group shelter. This is the structure with cover of our group shelter. And this is the street view chart. As you can see, this is the draft of our group shelter. And this is the structure of our group shelter. This is the structure with cover of our group shelter. And this is the street view chart of our group shelter. The design of the group shelter structure is come from Uzama and Ha. There are two main reasons why we designed the shelter structure like this. First is, the Melbourne weather are always rainy and snowy, so a flat top is not useful to against rain and snow. That's why we designed the shelter with a sharp top. The second reason is, the shelter structure is simple and common, so we can add more other people's design into the shelter. Because the homeless people are always moving, so the easily pack and the build of the shelter is very necessary. That's why we made each of the men of the rope to be the point to float up. The float point of the structure is at here and here. Because the homeless people are always moving, so the easily pack and the build of the shelter is very necessary. That's why we made each of the men of the rope to be the point to float up. The float point of the structure is at here and here. To against rain and snow, the shelter's tent should be strong and light. That's why we use carbon stand. And the technology we use to against rain and snow, the shelter's tent should be strong and light. That's why we use carbon stand. And the technology we use of the shelter is like the umbrella. So when we pack the shelter, it will look like a surfboard. Wait, half of it. So when we pack the shelter, it will look like a surfboard. Wait, half of it. Because the shelter should against rain, snow, and other extreme weather, so the cover of the shelter is very important. So for this shelter, we make the cover for 3 layers and use different kinds of the materials. For the outside layer of the cover, we we use the waterproof cloth, which is opaque. This could against rain and make the person who lives inside have his own personal privacy. For the middle layer of the cover, we use the waterproof cloth, but it's transparent. This could make the person who lives in it make sure whether it's day or night, and it's sunny or rainy outside. For the most inside layer of the cover, we use the Bristol fabric. Because the shelter should against rain, snow, and other extreme weather, so the cover of the shelter is very important. So for this shelter, we make the cover for 3 layers and use different kinds of the materials. For the outside layer of the cover, we use the waterproof cloth, which is opaque. This could against rain and make the person who lives inside have his own personal privacy. For the middle layer of the cover, we use the waterproof cloth, but it's transparent. This could make the person who lives in it make sure whether it's day or night, and it's sunny or rainy outside. For the most inside layer of the cover, we use the Bristol fabric. This could make the shelter breathable, and also when it's summer, they can only close the inside layer of the shelter of the cover, and then breathe the fresh air. This design is from Allen. For the personal privacy and safety reasons, a lock is necessary for our shelter. And because we have 3 layers of the cover, so we designed the outside layer could only be locked outside, and the mid layer and the inside layer could only be locked inside. And because the homeless people are always moving, it's easy for them to lose their keys when they are packed or build their shelters. That's why we use the password lock instead of traditional lock. This design is from Hall and Allen. For the top and both sides of the window, we decided to add a layer which is made by transparent glass cloth. This could make the homeless people have a good night and look the stars. When the design is from Usama. To against rain and flood, the bottom of the door should at least 8 centimeters away from the ground. This design is from the ancient Chinese. To stand and fix the shelter, we should add friction between the shelter and the ground. That's why we decided to use Armour's opinion to add 4 rubber feet under the shelter.
This section will introduce a program on the hydropower facilities in the shelter. There is sufficient supply of electricity resource near the Flint Street station. Need to find the relevant department near the government railway station to discuss the matter of the rangers to provide cheaper power supply. In the toilet and water, provide a unified location. Build a convenient water room and bathroom, and hide a bus function. Building this place is not available to destroy the surrounding environment with the city infrastructure. Shelters in concentrated area can be set up such a room. We want to understand the production of our products company. Production in Australia can reduce the cost of transportation products. Reduce the production cost of the products to reduce the price of the shelter. The production company choose the Australia canvas. The company is multifaceted and can provide the tools for production. In the choice of materials, we will try to use cheaper and better materials as much as possible to reduce cost, so that the homeless people can also afford to play. This section discusses the configuration of the product. The expected service life of the product is from 1 year to 2 years. If the product has a small problem, the user can solve the problems himself. After installing the product, the company will provide the simple spare supplies, such as nails and ropes. Also hope that manufacturers can provide free warranty time in the process of disassemble and instructions of residents to operate on their own.